Three of my best bets for the 2025 season. That's where we start on this episode of Locked On Patriots.
You are Locked On Patriots, your daily New England Patriots podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Patriots fans? I am your host, Nick Cattles, born and raised in New England, also host of the Everything Pats podcast, also co-host of the Greg Bedard Patriots podcast with Nick Cattles, and a sports talk show host veteran. On today's episode, you might be shocked what core from this Patriots team has been labeled elite by Pro Football Focus. Also, we dive into the last four drafts and what those drafts tell us. But first, three things I'm confident in for the 2025 season. We appreciate you joining the show, making us your first listen, and for being an everydayer. The Locked On Patriots podcast is a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. For the last time in a long time, we're giving you 3 episodes this week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but we are back to 5 days a week next week, starting on Monday, July 14th. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. These are not guarantees. I'm not going to sit here and guarantee you that these three things are going to happen. I'm not going to guarantee any of these 3 topics that we're going to talk about here as far as best bets in 2025. But these 3 things, these 3 topics, these 3 ideas are my best bets, which tells you I would be willing to put money down on all 3 of these ideas that I'm going to give you. These 3 things that I am confident in happening in this football season. And I start with the offense. I believe the Patriots, this offense has been at the bottom of the league the last couple of years. It has been brutal to watch. One of the worst offenses, really, for a 3-year stretch. You can go back to 2022 with Matt Patricia and Joe Judge, 2023, Bill O'Brien being disappointing, and then, of course, last year with Alex Van Pelt. What we have witnessed is a crime on offense. It has been that freaking bad. And this year, I am confident, one of my best bets is that this offense for the Patriots will finish in the top half of the NFL. They will be no worse than 16th in the league, and I wouldn't be surprised if they hover somewhere between 10th and 13th in the league this year. Now, why am I confident in that? Number one, I start with Josh McDaniels, one of the best offensive coordinators in football at really any level, highly regarded for what he does. And when we look at the seasons, even without Tom Brady, there are instances of McDaniels getting the very most out of what he has from his offensive roster. And I anticipate McDaniels with 1 year off to study across football, to maybe throw some tweaks, some wrinkles into this offense. And I expect McDaniels to use his creativity and his understanding of what defenses are trying to do and how they try to stop his offense. I believe that we are on the precipice of one of the best seasons from Josh McDaniels as a play caller. And I think that is going to lead to this offense being in the top half of the NFL in 2025. And when you look at the last 2 seasons that McDaniels has coached for a full season in the NFL, you're looking at 2021 and 2022. 2023, halfway through the season, McDaniels was fired from Vegas. That more has to do with his head coaching style and misses than his offensive coordinator ability. But when you look at his last 2 full seasons in the NFL, 2021 with the Patriots, Mac Jones and company, the Patriots finished 11th in total touchdowns that year. They had 51 with 48 rushing and receiving touchdowns or receiving touchdowns. So 11th in total TDs in 2021. The McDaniels offense in Vegas in 2022 finished 12th in total touchdowns with 43, 40 of those rushing and or receiving. So McDaniels, last 2 full seasons as a play caller, you're talking about top 12 in touchdowns scored. I would have to believe we will see the same kind of production from this offense. Drake Maye's ceiling, I'd argue, and I think it's a pretty easy argument, that Maye is the most talented quarterback that McDaniels has had since Tom Brady. Derek Carr, not potentially the ceiling of a Drake Maye, especially by the time that McDaniels got him. Mac Jones, we know what was going on with Mac. Drake Maye is the most talented quarterback that McDaniels has had since Brady. Cam Newton in the COVID season, he was semi-washed, if not completely washed Newton by the time McDaniels had him. Maye brings dual threat ability, and I think that matters. He can hurt defenses not just with the arm, but with the legs. We saw McDaniels be able to use Cam in 2020 to use his running ability, and he got the most out of it. And then I look at these running backs, the assortment of running backs that the Patriots have. If Antonio Gibson makes this roster, which right now I would put him on the roster, you've got Ramondre Stevenson, Travion Henderson, and Antonio Gibson. 3 backs in different ways, dynamic. You look at Henderson and what he can do catching the football, pass protection, third down back, really the perfect guy for McDaniels. Gibson, dangerous catching the football, dangerous running the football, had a better season than Stevenson last year, and I think Stevenson is going to have a bounce back. Powerful runner, finishes his runs, always gets the extra couple of yards. So those backs get me excited within this offense. And when I think about the defense and the special teams for the Pats, that should give this offense pretty good field position. I think you're going to see a defense that is attacking, aggressive, and will turn the ball over. And because of that, the Patriots should have some pretty good opportunities with some great field position. My second point, my second best bet, the Patriots, just because of Mike Vrabel alone, will win 2 football games this year. They will be +2 on the wins just from Vrabel. What I mean by that is if the Patriots were going to finish with 6 wins, with Vrabel, it's 8. 7, it'd be 9. 9, you get it. You get the idea. Mike Vrabel, to me, is solely responsible for a couple of extra wins. His decision-making is going to be so much better than what we saw by Jerod Mayo last year, and I would argue that Vrabel's decision-making is going to be better than Bill Belichick's decision-making in 21, 22, and 23. We saw a decline. With all due respect to Belichick, the greatest coach of all time, did terrific things for more than 2 decades in New England. But we did see a decline with in-game coaching and decision-making by Belichick, and we saw that decline really be obvious when Ernie Adams left. I think Vrabel, along with Stretch, will make better decisions. He'll make better 4th down decisions. When we talk about the end of the half and how to handle that, how many times did we see the end of the half get messed up last year under Mayo? Too many times, at least 2, if not 3 times. End of the half scenarios, Vrabel will be ready. End of game scenarios, Vrabel will be ready. Clock usage, timeout usage, how to swing field position, when to swing the field position. In Vrabel, of course, he's going to run this team as a game plan team. From week to week, things are going to change, offensively and defensively. And he will have this team ready to play every single solitary week. Vrabel, just him, worth 2 wins to this 2025 season. Here is my third and final best bet. Pop Douglas will be the top statistical wide receiver on this roster this season. We talk about Drake Maye taking a step forward in year 2, but really year 3 is going to be that quote-unquote leap that you look for. This is Pop's 3rd year, and I think Pop is primed to have a breakout season. His 3rd season, he understands the speed of the game. He understands what defenses are trying to do to take him away. And with that year 3, I think we will see a nice bump from Pop. And then you find out that McDaniels is having Pop line up outside from time to time. You know what that tells me? That tells me that McDaniels wants to get Pop Douglas on the field because Pop was not playing on the outside really at all the first couple of seasons of his NFL career. But now they're putting him on the outside because they want him out there on the field. They know that he is an impact player. So if Pop Douglas is getting some snaps on the outside, he's playing more than enough on the inside, I think the number of snaps that Pop gets this year might surprise some people. And we talk about explosivity in Kyle Williams and Travion Henderson. Pop Douglas also has some explosivity that this offense will use. I think you'll see from time to time Pop Douglas used as a gadget receiver as well. And don't overlook the fact that Stephon Diggs, in my estimation, he'll be out there by week 1, but I'm not going to expect a fast start from Diggs. I think he will get off to a slower start, which will open the door for Pop Douglas to compile some of those stats in the first month of the season. So those are my three best bets. The offense finishes in the top half, thanks to McDaniels and Drake Maye. Mike Vrabel will alone coach this team to 2 extra wins this season, and Pop Douglas will end up being the top statistical wide receiver on the 53-man roster. Which core of the Patriots has been labeled analytically elite? Find out next as we continue with today's episode of Locked On Patriots, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day. You suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. It's a beautiful day. You want to go check out Fenway. That's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without all the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merchandise, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes it all possible. And Game Time, it really makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worrying out of the buying situation. Game Time is the official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB, making it easy to browse the app for an exciting upcoming MLB game. And, of course, you got the Red Sox coming back home this week against the Rockies. Should be an opportunity there. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. There have been some questions about this linebacker core. Juwan Bentley, now gone. Jelani Tavai, dealing with an injury. Marte Mapu, who's been moved to linebacker from safety. Once again, not really capable of staying on the field. We've seen that movie before. But Pro Football Focus has a stunning evaluation about the linebacker position for the Patriots. They recently put up a story where they talked about some of the elite linebacker cores in the NFL. And this story was written by Dalton Wasserman, again, at Pro Football Focus. And Wasserman had the Patriots as the third best linebacker core in the NFL, behind only Philadelphia and Detroit. And here's what Wasserman wrote. New England's combination of old and new faces gives the team a potentially formidable linebacker unit. Robert Spillane ranks third in the NFL with a 91.2 PFF run defense grade since the start of 2023. Jelani Tavai struggled at times last season, but posted an outstanding 86.6 overall grade in 2023. Christian Ellis earned a solid 72.6 mark in his first expanded opportunity last season. And ex-Titan Jack Gibbons flashed his potential with a 77.9 overall grade over the past 2 years. And Wasserman finishes his thoughts by writing, linebacker turned head coach Mike Vrabel has to like his options at his former position this season. So here's what I'm wondering. If the Patriots do end up having a top 5 linebacker unit, what would the impact be on this defense? What should we expect to see from this defense? I'm not telling you it's going to be a top 5 unit. We're just going off of the PFF premise. Again, they rank the Patriots third at linebacker overall. Let's just say top 5. What should we expect if you have a top 5 linebacker core? Well, number one, your run defense should be much improved. If you have a top 5 linebacker unit, that means you do a good job against the run. You don't necessarily have to stack up TFL after TFL, but you limit the run. You don't give up big run plays, especially in the toughest times. And when you look at the run defense from last year, some of the stats are misleading. You look at yards per carry, for example. The Patriots' run defense was 14th in the league in yards per carry, right around the middle of the league. Not terrible, not awesome. When you look at 20-plus yard runs, the Patriots, 13th most given up. So, again, right around the middle of the pack. However, if you go off DVOA, the Patriots had the 28th ranked run defense. Bottom 5 run defense in football last year, if you go off of Aaron Schatz's DVOA number. Evan Lazar, Patriots.com, wrote about Robert Spillane when the Patriots signed him. Spillane registered an elite 91.2 run defense grade with 34 run stops for Vegas last season. That was 12th among linebackers, again, via Pro Football Focus. Spillane has literally been one of the best run defending linebackers in football for the past few seasons. He should make them better against the run. And it's not only just statistics. It's also setting the tone. It's also understanding that when a team wants to run over you, that you're not going to allow them. Do you remember that Colts game last year? Anthony Richardson and that Colts offense ran the football down the throat of the Pats and just soaked the clock, and beat them coming from behind in the fourth quarter. And the Pats seemingly couldn't stop the run. They couldn't limit the run. They couldn't do anything about it. That's tone setting. And if you're a defense and you're giving up that kind of run game to Indy in that kind of situation with those circumstances, it is demoralizing for you as a football team. That should be different this year. The tone should be different. The physicality should be different. We know that Mike Vrabel, Terrell Williams, they want physicality. They want violence, as Williams always says. In this linebacker core, they do give you the potential to go sideline to sideline, which has been a major weakness of the Patriots over the past, I don't know how long. I mean, you can go back to Bill Belichick years. He believes in the big, bruising linebackers. That is not a Mike Vrabel football team. Mike Vrabel depends on quicker, more athletic, more agile, and undersized, if you were comparing him to Belichick linebackers, undersized second-level defenders. Guys that are 230, 225 to 230, maybe 235, 6'1", 6'2", that can fly around the field. That's what Vrabel wants. So I think if you have a top 5 linebacker core, you are going to be much better against the run. But it's not only against the run where you'll see some differences and improvements. Less mismatches in pass defense. We've seen at times over the past several years, the Patriots get taken advantage of by offenses by putting the linebackers in difficult positions to succeed in the pass game because they know Patriots rely on bigger linebackers. And that's kind of where you got the whole, okay, we'll put Duggar, we'll put Peppers down in the box at times. We'll play some hybrid safety / linebacker because early down linebackers with Bentley and Tavai, those guys are bigger. And that's just what Bill went with. And at times you're going to get taken advantage of because those big guys can't necessarily snap in and snap out, stay in coverage with tight ends, slot receivers, running backs. And I think with the Patriots, it's not perfect, but with Christian Ellis and Gibbons, you have two guys that are athletic enough to stay competitive in coverage, which is going to be a big, big change. And you'll see some help from the safety. You'll see some help from the nickelback. And you should be able to tackle. If we're talking top 5 linebacker unit in the league, you're going to have your guys on the second level being capable of tackling consistently and not giving up those extra yards. Limiting the yards after the catch, yards after contact. Wrap them up, take them down. And finally, run defense improved, pass defense, mismatches improved, and the pass rush also improved. If you have a top 5 linebacker core, your pass rush will be better. We always fall in love with the idea of the defensive end, the edge pass rusher. We always think about pass rush. We think about those guys. But you can get pass rush from different areas. You can get pass rush from the interior. You can get pass rush from your linebackers. And so you will not see this Patriots team only get pass rush production from Harold Landry and Keon White. The other thing you'll see a lot of with this team is simulated pressure, where your defensive linemen end up dropping in coverage and a linebacker comes in instead. You'll see a decent amount of that with Vrabel and Terrell Williams. In linebackers, the versatility of these linebackers allow you to take advantage with some simulated pressure. Back to Evan Lazar on Spillane. Spillane logged 13 total pressures as an interior blitzer, profiling as a fiery off-ball linebacker with an explosive downhill trigger. He can get after the quarterback. And if you have a linebacker core that is elite, if Pro Football Focus hits this on the nose, all three levels of the defense, D-line, linebackers, defensive backs, all three levels should be really good to excellent. The one spot, the one level on this defense that you could question is linebacker. So if it's going to be elite, this defense is going to be darn good. So that was fun to read from Pro Football Focus. All right, looking at the last four drafts and how they've impacted the Pats' current roster. That's coming up next as we continue with today's episode of Locked On Patriots, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Back-to-back 4-win seasons is a product of a lot of bad football. Breaking news. Captain Obvious just walked into the room. Bad offensive line play. Boy, have we seen that. Bad coaching. We have certainly seen that. But also bad drafting. You get bad football because you continuously swing and miss in the draft. And Greg Bedard actually took a 30,000-foot view of the last four drafts for the Patriots, not counting 2025. So the prior four drafts. And here's what Bedard wrote at Boston Sports Journal. It would not be a shock to me if by the start of the season, the Patriots will have very little to show from their previous four drafts. And this is how Bedard breaks it down. He breaks it down into two categories, highly likely to stick, and then fighting for their roster spot this summer. We're looking at the draft of 24, 23, 22, 21. Those four drafts. Highly likely to stick. Bedard has one dude from last year's class, and you know who it is. That's Drake Maye. The 23 draft. Bedard has four players, Christian Gonzalez, Keon White, Demario Douglas, Bryce Behringer. So one of them the punter. The 2022 draft. Again, Bedard has one guy who is highly likely to stick on this roster from the 2022 draft, and that is Marcus Jones. And then you go back to 2021, two players highly likely to stick, Barmore and Stevenson. So May, Gonzalez, White, Douglas, Behringer, Jones, Barmore, Stevenson. That's 8. And as Bedard writes, that's 8 players out of 38 selected. I'm not a math genius. I'm not a football historian, but I can tell you that if you hit on 8 of your 38 picks in the draft over a 4-draft period, that ain't good. That's downright deplorable. Now, you have guys who are fighting for their roster spot this summer. These guys could make the team. And this sets aside Joe Milton, who is already gone. So from the 2024 draft, fighting for their roster spot, Polk, Wallace, Robinson, Baker, Dial, and Bell. 2023, Mapu, So, Booty, and Bolden. In 2022, Cole Strange. So just the inept performance from the Patriots, front office, scouting department, the inept performance in the 21, 22, 23, and 24 drafts might leave you with 8 total players. And we're not even talking about all those guys being top-level contributors. We're just saying making the team, highly likely to stick. Now, I'm going to get into how this impacts the team and how this has impacted the off seasons over the last couple of years, but I do want to point out one positive. The biggest positive from those drafts, 21 through 24, is that the Patriots actually hit on some premier positions. When we talk about premier positions, we're talking about cornerback, we're talking about pass rusher. We're talking about quarterback, wide receiver 1, the true alpha. And the Patriots actually have hit on some of the premier positions. Christian Gonzalez looks like he is an absolute home run. And there are not many positions as important as a true lockdown outside corner. Gonzalez obviously looks like that kind of guy. Christian Barmore, interior impact defensive lineman that can get to the quarterback. This is becoming more and more important in the NFL. You see a lot of guys in the middle of the defensive line causing havoc. You see offensive guards and centers getting paid more money than they ever been paid before. And it's because of that interior pass rush and the problems that it creates. Christian Barmore, hit. Keion White. If Keion White can fulfill his potential and stick at defensive end, then you have somebody who can be an impact player at one of the more important positions in the league. And then, of course, we save the best for last, which is the quarterback in Drake Maye. We all feel good about Maye, or at least most of us do. I don't think it's a guarantee that he's a franchise quarterback just yet. I do want to see 2025 in full, but I think he has all the potential to be that guy, and I believe he's on his way to being that guy, and Josh McDaniels will only help him become that guy. But if you hit on Maye, and the flashes were the flashes last year, if you hit on Drake Maye, then you have your franchise quarterback for the next 10 to 15 years. So even though the Patriots have been mostly inept in the draft, you can say they hit on cornerback if we're rating it today, which we are. They hit on a cornerback. They hit on an interior pass rusher. They hit, I think, on an outside pass rusher in Keion White, and they hit on a quarterback. So four premium positions. So 4 of the 8 players that are highly likely to stick on this roster are premier position guys. But then you get to the other part of this, which is the 8 of the 38 players being safe, leading you to have to hit in free agency. If you are this bad in the draft, if you're getting 8 guys out of 38 picks right, you have to be awesome in free agency. You can't miss. And we saw this last year. The drafts weren't great. You go into last offseason, bringing in guys from the outside, not the ones that you extended, but the guys that you signed from the outside didn't make much of an impact. And because of that, you won 4 games again. So when you don't perform in the draft consistently, you're putting even more pressure on your free agency hits and what you can do. And of course, free agency has its warts. Free agents trend older. You're not going to sign guys who have been great in free agency when they're 24, 25, coming off their first NFL contracts. These guys are now getting extended earlier, and that makes it tougher for teams to find true young, really good talent in free agency. So if you're banking on free agency more because you're swinging, missing in the draft, you're signing older players. And free agents usually have at least one or if not multiple questions. Morgan Moses, for example, he's 34. He's coming off one of his worst seasons. There are good things about Moses, but there are questions. Carlton Davis, really solid cornerback number 2. Excellent at times. Number of injuries. Going to be 29 this season. So when you get into the free agency game, you're bringing in more questions. And when you go out and you sign free agents, are you familiar with those guys? That's a huge question. You have to have connections. You have to have that network that allows you to bring somebody in, like a Robert Spillane, for example. Finally, I would say that when you look at the 2021 draft through the 2024 draft, we're talking about a failure on multiple levels. There's not just one reason why. The GM, quote unquote, the Patriots don't use that title, but we'll just say the GM, Belichick and Elliott Wolf, and really Mike Vrabel, who's the de facto final say for the Patriots in this regime. You know, from 21 to 24, Wolf and Belichick failed on just a certain level that is not going to be productive for you in the short or long term. You failed with asset management because you just wasted picks. You wasted way too many picks. Your scouting department obviously failed you. And I think your coaching staff also failed you. I think some of the story of last year's draft was a coaching staff that just wasn't good enough, wasn't experienced, and didn't give enough to those young guys. And of course, a lot of it falls on the player themselves. But you've got to have failures at multiple levels to be that bad, to have 8 out of the 38 highly likely to stick. But the 2025 draft brings us all hope because on paper, Looks like the Patriots did a very good job. We'll see if it plays out that way. That wraps up this edition of Locked On Patriots. Reach out to me on Twitter at NickCRadio. Don't forget to throw a comment in on the YouTube channel. And don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. Thank you for making Locked On Patriots your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On NFL Scouting. Hosts Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino will make you the most informed NFL fan this offseason. Find Locked On NFL Scouting on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great day, and we will see you on Wednesday.